If our present birth here is the beginning, and our death is the end of this life, we do not need to worry about trying to understand the problem of suffering. A moral order in the universe, the reality of right and wrong, may not have any significance to us. To avoid suffering at any cost may seem to be the sensible thing to do during the brief span of our life. However, this does not explain the problem of unequal circumstances in life, why some are sick while others are healthy, and some being poor while others are rich. Karma is volition, a will, a force, and is classified into three types of craving. Craving gives rise to deed, which produces results, which in turn brings about new desires. This process of cause and effect, action and reaction, is a natural law. An external power or God that punishes the evil and rewards the good deeds has no place in Buddhist thought. Man is always changing, either for good or for evil. This is unavoidable and depends entirely on his own will, his own action, and nothing else. This is merely the universal natural law of the conservation of energy extended to the moral domain. Many Westerners set out to explain karma, but this often is not the karma that is taught in Buddhism. All they really talk about is good or evil karma, and it is important to make the distinction that is in Buddhism. There is more than this general doctrine that is found in almost, if not all, religions. To be considered Buddhist karma, it must deal with the cessation of karma, not just with karma itself and its effects. The Buddha taught that karma ceases with the termination of mental defilements like lust, hatred, and delusion. Old karma ceases, no present karma is produced, and no new future karma is produced. This is a third kind of karma. The Buddha called the first kind of karma black or evil karma, and the second kind white or good karma. The third kind is neither black nor white, puts an end to the first two. It is the noble eightfold path and world transcending above good and evil. The Buddha said, "I came to a clear realization of this through my own sublime wisdom. This teaching of the distinctly different third type of karma is something he came to know with his own insight and then taught to all. It does away with all karma and is how one attains nirvana." Buddha said that merely producing good karma does not extinguish mental suffering completely and absolutely, because one goes right on being infatuated by the grasping at good karma, causing one to go round in the cycle of birth and death, though in good states of existence. It is not completely nirvana. A young truth seeker named Suba approached the Buddha and questioned him regarding the apparent disparity that exists among humanity. What is the reason? What is the cause that we find amongst mankind, the short-lived and the long-lived, the diseased and the healthy, the ugly and the good-looking, the powerless and the powerful, the poor and the rich, the low-born and the high-born, the ignorant and the wise? The Buddha's reply was, all living beings have karma as their own, their inheritance, their congenial cause, their kinsman, their refuge. It is karma that differentiates between low and high states. He then explained the cause of such differences in accordance with the law of cause and effect as follows. Some people are short-lived because they killed living beings in their previous lives. Some people are long-lived because they were compassionate and avoided killing in their previous lives. Karma explains why some living beings are fortunate while others are less fortunate, why some are happy while others are unhappy. The Buddha clearly stated that karma accounts for the differences among living beings. Part of the Buddha's experiences on the night of his enlightenment consisted of gaining an understanding of how karma determines the rebirth of living beings, how living beings migrate from happy to unhappy conditions, and vice versa, as a consequence of this particular karma. Often people misunderstand the meaning of karma, especially true in the everyday casual use of the term. People will often complain about their particular circumstance and making use of the idea of karma to resolve their situation. It becomes a vehicle of escape and assumes most of the characteristics of a belief in predestination or fate. Karma literally means action and not fate or predestination. The Pali word kama means literally action or doing. But karma is more than just action, because it is not mechanical action, nor unconscious or involuntary. It is intentional, conscious, deliberate, self-motivated action. Intentional actions can condition our situation for better or for worse because everyday action must have a reaction or an effect. This is even reinforced by the great physicist Newton, who formulated the scientific law that every action must have an equal and opposite reaction. On the most fundamental level, the law of karma teaches that particular kinds of actions inevitably lead to similar or appropriate results. A simple example would be, if an apple seed is planted, the tree that grows as a result will be an apple tree, which will eventually bear apples. According to the nature of our actions, we will obtain the consequent fruit. It is very necessary to be conscious of the good and bad results of our actions, in order to know how they come to fruition, but we should not be greedily attached to the result. A correct understanding of the law of karma and how it operates incites us to be just and compassionate. Karma can be of two kinds, good or wholesome karma, and bad or unwholesome karma. Wholesome is meant in the sense that they are beneficial to oneself and others, and for this reason motivated by not ignorance, attachment, or aversion, but by wisdom, detachment, love, and compassion. Time will tell whether a wholesome action will produce happiness, and an unwholesome action produce unhappiness. The Buddha himself explained that actions do not always produce its fruit of suffering or happiness right away, and a foolish person will often not think that their action was good or bad until they see the consequences. The fully ripened fruit of unwholesome actions is rebirth in the lower realms, the hell realms, the realms of hungry ghosts, the realms of animals. If the weight of unwholesome actions is not sufficient to result in birth in the lower realms, then it results in unhappiness even though we are reborn as humans. Besides being reborn into a lower realm, actions of this kind can result in separation from loved ones, fear, or even paranoia. In the case of taking the lives of others, we can clearly see how the effect is similar in nature to the cause. Killing shortens the life of those who are killed, depriving them of their loved ones. So if one were to indulge in killing, they would be liable to experience these same effects. Similarly, stealing motivated by the afflictions of attachment and greed can lead to rebirth as a hungry ghost, where one would be completely deprived of essentials such as food and shelter. And even if stealing does not result in rebirth as a hungry ghost, it will result in poverty and dependence on others. Sexual misconduct will result in marital problems. It is important to not confuse unwholesome acts with sin. According to Buddhism, wrongdoing is not regarded as sin, for that word is foreign to the teaching of Buddha. There is no such thing as breaking Buddha's laws, for he was not a lawgiver or an arbitrator who punished the bad and rewarded the good deeds of beings, and therefore there is no remorse, sorrow, or regret for sin. The doer of the deed is responsible for his actions. He suffers or enjoys the consequences, and it is his concern either to do good or not. It must also be stated that all actions, good or ill, do not necessarily mature. One's good karma may suppress the evil karma and vice versa. Karma, whether wholesome or unwholesome, is modified by the conditions under which it is accumulated. In other words, a wholesome or unwholesome action may be more or less weighty depending on the conditions under which it was performed. The conditions that determine the weight or strength of karma may be divided into those that refer to the subject, doer of the action, and those that refer to the object, the being toward whom the action is directed. For this reason, the conditions that determine the weight of karma apply to the subject as well as the object of actions. The amount of time it takes for the effect of karma to manifest itself varies, generally divided into 3 categories, depending on which one would be able to see the results. In this very life, in the next life, or only after many lives. For instance, when a person refuses to study, indulges in alcohol or drug abuse, or steals to support his harmful habits, the effects are evident within a short span of time, manifesting themselves in the loss of his livelihood and friends, in ill health, etc. Although everyday people like ourselves cannot see the long-term effects of karma,